Hello, everybody. I'm Donnie Samson. I'm our CEO here at Samson Properties, and I'm thrilled today to bring in one of our great new partners, Rick Jarvis from One South, and we've just got some great news and some great things we want to talk about here today. So I wanted to first introduce Rick. Rick, thanks for coming by. Great to have you in our studio here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's a pretty impressive place. I wish you could almost kind of turn the camera around and see all the different.
Take a walk around and see everything.
It's obviously it's a pretty impressive place that I think can yield a lot of good results for folks that know how to use it. So I compliment you guys on what you've been able to build here.
Awesome. It's a fun studio. They even make me look good here. So we got some good stuff going on. Well, maybe not good, but okay.
I didn't put the makeup on today.
So tell me why we're here, Rick. How did all this One South Samson thing come about?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're kind of watching this, we've had the meeting on the 14th, and we're talking about how we're going to essentially, there's a strategic partnership going on here, right? Where you guys have built out what I think are just some of the best tools I've seen. Just a lot of really big bad ass capabilities, and we want to learn how to leverage that. And so, it kind of came about simply because I think one of the kind of a gentleman that we share in common said, hey, I think you guys should meet, and we did, and had some conversations, and I found some some interesting things in what you guys had built. And so just kind of continued the conversation, and here we are a couple months later.
And in fairness, he had pitched you many partners over the last 10 years, and you had swatted all of them away successfully.
I think that's pretty accurate. We've obviously been approached by a lot of folks being when you're an independent broker,
and a very successful one like you all are.
You're very kind. When you're independent and you're in a market that's growing as fast as Richmond is, you're a pretty high priority. And I think that there, a lot of the franchises and a lot of the, call it the big regionals or whatever. Are trying to figure out how to get into Richmond. Richmond's a little bit of this kind of, weird, quirky kind of place. And it's very, it can be a little standoffish at times to the outsiders. And so, just having these conversations over time, it's kind of led us to a comfort level where I thought, hey, again, what you guys had built relative to what I had seen in, from some other folks, it never had any interest to me.
Right.
And so it just kind of led us to
kind of kept talking. And really my whole tactic was, we'll talk more about why One South, but to me it was like, look, what does this look like for the growth of your company and your group? Like, let's partner together to make this a win-win for everybody. So that was kind of like, how does this work for you? And you did. You told us how it works for you, and then we kind of made that happen, right?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. There was I think there was kind of two key things if I had to identify kind of some moments, within the conversations. The first one was like, for all these other groups that have ever approached us, the first thing I would always ask is, tell me about your technology, tell me about your tech stack, tell me what kind of systems have you put in place? And all of them would say, we've got all that taken care of. We just want to fly you out to our headquarters and meet the people. And so I'm like, look, we can do this on Zoom. You need to show me the tech first. If it doesn't make any sense, I'm just not interested. No, come on out. So I've been to San Francisco, I've been to New York, I've been to New Jersey, I've been to, up here to DC on several occasions. And each and every time the people they were selling the people, but the technology just didn't meet our needs. And so, one thing I said to you is like, look, for this to be serious, I need to see the tech.
Sure.
And I think 5 minutes later, you sent me a login to Cardinal Nest and said, play around with it, and there was no reluctance on your part to cover anything. You just said, unfettered, go ahead and have at it. And to me, I was like, okay, there's something here, if someone's that willing to show it and that prideful in it, I thought it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. We just believe in full transparency. Here's the keys, have at it. Because, there's just, I always joke, people like when people join Samson or we're talking about a lot of that stuff, they're like, Donnie, you're so transparent. You're so honest. It's like, I don't ever want to make a lie because then I won't remember what lies I got to remember to keep up,
Right,
So,
exactly.
So you talked about there being 5 strategic things like that need to be in place for you to consider something like this. What are some of those things?
So I think first and foremost, whenever we get approached by these guys, I have to kind of have a sense that, what they can provide us is something that, we couldn't build ourselves, right? Or we couldn't even go into the open market and maybe buy a version of it, through a third-party vendor or what's, So it has to be something that I don't think we could do necessarily on our own. I think 2, it also has to solve a problem that we have. Like, sometimes people will come to you with like, oh, we've got this great solution, but it's more like it's the solution looking for the problem versus a solve for an existing problem. And to this point, I really hadn't seen anybody that approached us that had a solution for the issues we were experiencing.
Right.
I think also, does it allow us to maintain our decision making kind of at our local level?
Yep.
Because I think we're very, we know who we are, and everyone else kind of says, oh, we'll let you do whatever you want to, Like we had one group actually that's like, look, we would love for you guys to join us and you'll have complete autonomy. We just want to change your name. I'm like, well,
it's okay. A big thing.
That's the exact opposite of having complete autonomy, right? And I think lastly, is this idea of like, does it enhance both the brokers and the agents' profitability, right?
Sure.
Just taking a cut off the top to give us tools that we don't need decreases everybody's. That has to be kind of not just a win for the brokerage and the organization itself, but it has to be for the individuals within the organization. And so that's the biggest thing. And then
that's most important.
Right.
Any good leader like yourself isn't worried about, okay, how does it help my bottom line? You're always, your conversations were, how does this make our agents' life better? And is it going to be a win for our agents, not only profitability wise, but tools wise, and they're able to succeed in a market that has been challenging at best the last 18 months, and who knows, coming forward. But your whole concern always was about what's going to be best for our agents, what's going to be best for their success and their profitability.
Correct.
And that's the core of the whole conversation.
Yeah. I think obviously, the ability to leverage some of the tools and some of the support that you guys have, it kind of unencumbers us from having to maintain all of our own administrative side and the like. And so, being able to protect individuals within the organization, but then no longer, basically freeing up that money or that time really as much as anything to go out and go back to do what we originally were designed to do. We got to a point where, scale is important. And it was always that struggle between, trying to scale and find the efficiencies, but still maintaining, that kind of, a little more of a cutting edge or whatever it may be to what it was we were always trying to be.
So you talked about the Cardinal Nest. That's kind of the hub of our wheel.
Correct.
That everything kind of comes off of. How do you envision some of the ways that your group might be able to leverage that?
So I think first and foremost, kind of go backwards a little bit to go forwards. We've had several attempts internally with us trying to create a sort of an individual marketing division inside of One South.
Sure.
We were never able to get it to the level it needed to kind of think for it to sprout its own wings and fly, but it definitely had some successes. We'd also experimented with some software, not property management, but brokerage and management type of software. Pretty expensive. And so we were going to try to figure out if we could kind of create a little, maybe group of peer level brokers that didn't have access to the big technology and maybe help manage some of their stuff as well. And so, I think those two things alone very much mimic what you guys had built. You had the scale, probably just the resources as well, maybe just the, intelligence that we didn't have to figure out how to do that.
I wouldn't say that.
But I think, so first and foremost, I think it's going to free up resources. I think the second part of that is, how are we going to leverage it is your ability to push your message further into wherever it is you're trying to push it dwarfs what we can do. And so, we're limited really by, some crude tools, but decent tools. But I think the level of toolkit that you have provided, both in the creation of the message, the support, and how you go about doing it, as well as just the distribution network, is so far greater than what we were able to have or have access to, that to me, it's the ability now to really be able to push our message where it needs to go. And right now, going back to the idea of message, it's never been more important to control the narrative than it is right now, because
100%.
Where the market is going is not obvious to the public. It's obvious to the agents. We have the inventory thinning, but, all these things about mortgage rates and lawsuits and all this other kind of jazz is really kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like jumbled the message. Correct. And the public,
confused the public too.
Exactly. Sure. And so, we need to get back to seizing the high ground from a message delivery standpoint and make sure people really understand what's going on. These tools will absolutely help us get there.
That's key. So you mentioned the court decisions. Like, do the court rulings that have just come down have any impact on your decision when it comes to any of this?
No, I think the court decision probably just drove home the need more. To find, better ways to operate, more efficiencies, to be able to lower costs, to really pass that on to the agents themselves. I mean, I've always viewed the agent as our client. The public is the client of the agent, right? So how can we support those guys? And if we can help them get to a point where, they have more flexibility in what they need to do in order to make a living, well, that's all the better. So, the vision for this, again, we had tried to probably build a version of this, going back 4 or 5 years ago, again, just didn't really have those resources. Finding it has allowed me to finally go, okay, wow, now we can get back to being more purposeful in what we're doing. And, so getting here was always just kind of been a goal. We just found someone who had done it better than us. So whether the court case came down positive or negative, we were still likely going to end up in an arrangement like this. And I think the decision to do this was made before the court case came down.
It was. I think it was, like, to your point, it made it even more like, okay, let's, and for us too, and we'll talk more about kind of why Samson, with One South, but the combination of a little bit more of an unsure future. Now, we all have our own opinions to the court cases. I'm hoping that it's a minimal effect on our industry as a whole. I think we're all hoping that, right? But we don't really know for sure how it takes place. But, bonding together and locking arms and getting them together gives us an even better chance of stabilizing our force through all this.
I think that's correct. There's strength in numbers, and at the same time, again, the level of tools now and the ability to leverage what has already been built, I think just accelerates that place where we need to go. It's going to allow us to get there quicker.
So what are your concerns moving forward from this date, from this video, from these meetings, from the One South Samson future?
I think I have very little doubt about why we did this.
Sure.
I think now it's in the execution.
Yep.
And it's in the change of behaviors. We're going to have to absolutely adopt some new tools, and that forces all of us to learn, which, no one really likes forced learning, right?
No one likes change.
Yeah. No one likes to be forced to learn something new. But when you do it, all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I've been missing this opportunity.
Sure.
So I think more so than anything, it's going to be getting used to the idea of change being much more of a constant. And again, getting back to that idea of just kind of elevating yourself through learning some new tools, techniques, whatever. Something I'm super excited about too is, and we were talking about this beforehand, it's this idea of some of the network effects that we will now have available to us. So, we don't really have the ability to go to, mastermind groups or some of these things. And Richmond has always skewed a little bit behind the curve in terms of maybe when things arrive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it filters to the big cities. It usually filters from west back to east. And so, some new techniques in sales or some new tools that we become aware of or whatever, I think it's going to accelerate that very much. So my concerns are more just in how we execute this interim phase of getting, there's going to be a lot of new passwords that are not a lot of new logins.
Mostly logistical over the next couple of weeks.
Correct. And so I think, but your team has been really tremendously on the ball in helping us set up all of these things that we know we need to do.
Right.
And so, again, I'm just more concerned about sort of the frictional change and then the adoption of the learning mentality.
Sure.
And I think if whoever chooses to do that best, I think is going to win first. And that's, I hope we can encourage ourselves to do that.
But, but in theory, that can come across a little scary in the sense that like, oh, there's all these things. Like in theory at the core, look, there's some extra things that Samson's going to be able to provide that are going to be great for all of our agents, to jump into together. But at its core, maybe you need to turn in paperwork a little bit different way. But if people want to keep kind of going that route they're going, they don't have to blow up their business and change big things, right?
No.
You can we're just got some other things that we might put a tack on to help you enhance your marketing, enhance your communication, enhance your ability to plug in and networking. But, some people, I've learned over the years and all the recruiting and all the things we've done is like, some people are like, look, all this stuff's great, but I just want to do me. I want to call my 20 people. I want to sell my 15 homes. I got my data. You're going to be able to do that. You might have to turn your paperwork a little bit different way. That's, we don't have to make you adopt anything. So I just want to kind of step back and be like, yes, the logistical aspect of turning everybody over is, somewhat scary for us, but we got a great staff that's going to help everybody work through this together. But if you're doing your business, we're not going to make you learn everything whiz bam tomorrow.
Right.
But those things are here for you if you want to.
I think that's important. I also think that the this is both a really big deal and the smallest deal of all time, right? So in that it's as big a deal as I think as an individual wants it to be, meaning that, again, a lot of new tools, a lot of new resources are all now available to you. But at the same time, we're still operating, as One South Realty Group. The faces are going to stay largely the same.
Yep.
The pathways for, how we process contracts and all these kind of things are all going to remain largely the same. So at the end of the day, it's a very small deal that can only be as large as you want it to be.
Absolutely.
And so again, this isn't forced change. Again, I would say that 90% of the stuff we do is going to remain largely as it was.
Sure.
With just, again, more additional tools and things. And correct. And and it's hard to get to the bottom of all the stuff that you've built. I mean, it's it's really, really deep. And so I think that's again a compliment to you guys. And I think an opportunity for us.
We've been trying. We've been trying to do some stuff. So, I know you asked me, earlier, why does Samson come down and talk to One South, right? And I think to me, Richmond's been a tough market for those that don't know. For us, because we're we're based in Northern Virginia. I'm sitting in Chantilly, Virginia every day, and we've got a lot of agents in Maryland and West Virginia. We've broken into in DC, but we've had a Richmond office now for about a year and a half, 2 years, and we have some great agents down there in a good forwarding. But in some ways, we've been a little bit of the outsider, that is trying to get into this Richmond market, which I think is great. I've got 2 aunts that live there. I've got grandparents. I mean, Richmond's not far, but it seems far because it is a different market, that central region down there. So we were out there looking for just a great partner. And One South had such an impeccable reputation, like as a thought leader, as a company that did things the right way and had a great reputation. As I was down there doing recruiting events and talking to some people around town, I kept hearing what a great place One South was, and obviously our mutual friend introduced us, and we just had coffee, and I would say that
I think I had a beer.
Yeah, you had a beer. Yes, you're right. I had a 2-hour drive back up top, so I don't think I was doing that. But we had coffee and we just started talking, and I would say that maybe you were a little skeptical at first, but it was a great meeting because I just got to know the man behind the company. I'd heard great things about the company, so I think that was what was important for me, was getting to find somebody down there that was great locally, somebody I could really connect with and could be a great partner with us there. So I think that was what was important to me, was the reputation, having a great local company that maybe we could learn so much from, and I already have in the couple of months that we've been talking. I think that the other thing was that, One South Realty Group, you guys have this great company and this great independence, and you want to keep your independence. And we are a company that's like, look, you keep your independence. Look, there'll be people that, we've had a couple similar situations, and like, I'll never, you don't have to call me and check in. Like, you do your thing. Like,
right.
You guys run your company, run your group, run your individual business. Because even though we're all about One South, every agent is their own person. Like, nobody is in control of what you do in this world. Like, I can't make anybody successful. Rick can't make every single person gets up every day and puts on their pants and shoes, and they're in control of their own destiny. That's the one great part about real estate, right? If you're not doing well, you get yourself to look in the mirror and try to get better at. So I was looking for this great partner that had a great independent company that I could learn a lot from. We could learn from each other. We could enhance each other's business going forward. So that's why it became, such a great partner. And as we kept talking, we just kind of were of like minds and really found a match that I thought we could really help each other grow in such a great way. So that's kind of where I came from.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. A couple of things also that I'd like to bring up that, I think we've talked about a little bit behind the scenes, but probably deserve a little more conversation is, one of the, you've talked about Richmond as kind of like on the edge of the ability to travel down there back and forth a lot. And so it's always sort of been a little bit of a challenge for you to really,
Yep.
you get cut a lot of different ways, and
sure.
There's a lot of things going on. And by the way, the schedule that you keep relative to going out and meeting people and bringing events to them and all these kind of things is very impressive. And one of the things that I really was blown away by was this idea of like headquarter to you.
Yep.
Tell the people, right, a little more about what's behind that, what it's designed to do.
So what is that whole designed to do? So yes, we set our headquarters in Chantilly, but we have something really cool called HQ2U. So we travel our staff out to a different office every Wednesday, and we do trainings all day from 9:30 to 3 o'clock. We do breakfast and lunch, and I do a Q&A, ask me anything at lunchtime every time. And it's a great opportunity to not only dive in and do 8 30-minute classes and engage with each other and engage in conversations, but to really bring everything locally. So like we do them, we have one scheduled for our Richmond office in December. We're in Fredericksburg in November. We are all over the place with this HQ2U. And the idea is that, yes, we do tons and tons of education virtually, and that's great. But I love the in-person stuff, and we bring HQ2U out, and 50, 60, 70 people will come every week. And it's our staff's most fun day, is because we get to interact with people, not only when you're not teaching a class. So like we've got our great social media teacher or our marketing graphic design teacher or our tech trainers. Well, they'll teach a 30-minute class, but then they're available. They're all there every day. So they'll do one-on-ones on the side in side rooms all day. So it's like this great opportunity to not only get the great classes, but if you're like, all right, that tool doesn't really interest me, I'm going to hop out of that class, but I'm going to go meet one-on-one with marketing coordinators about how I can best, craft my brochures or postcards or newsletters. So it's like a great opportunity. Not only you can always do one-on-ones with staff through Zoom or whatever, but to get in with them one-on-one, and because to me there's nothing better than that. I mean, we've been doing this long enough that we remember when everybody came in all the time and everybody at the office meetings.
Right.
There was no tech training, there was no video,
right.
but bringing the HQ to use is a big deal. And I love that, so I love that concept that we're going to continue to do. And, I know that you and Joey and Sarah and I have had a lot of conversations about, what's our visions for, the RVA,
Right.
and what are we going to build up down there? And what I'd love to do, and Rick mentioned this at the beginning of this thing, is our studio is great here, and the other really cool facet to our headquarters here is our print center, and our print center it's a big differentiator. We have three, a 24-foot machine and two 18-foot machines that put out all these postcards and high quality newsletters and brochures, and you have amazing stuff, buyer guides and seller guides that we're helping to modify and make better here. But I think that our long-term vision, or maybe short-term vision, we'll see, is to have mini studios down there and print center down there and so that it's almost like that Central Virginia hub for us. Like, we've got a great presence in Fredericksburg already. We're growing in Richmond, obviously, with this partnership. We're growing in Richmond a lot, and we hope to grow a lot in Richmond in the future. So I think to have another hub down there that, who knows, maybe it extends down to Hampton Roads and the beach at some point in the near future, but to have a great hub where we're bringing our headquarters and doing similar things on a local level is our goal. Our goal is to bring continued trainings down there. Our actual lead trainer for our whole company lives in Fredericksburg, so she's driving an hour to get to here and then 2 hours to get to Virginia. It's actually closer to bring to Richmond. So I think we can bring tons of great education to our Richmond offices from our training staff as well. So I think that's our goal, is to continue to wrap our arms around Richmond even more. And I think we've wanted to, but to your point, it's been tough for me to recruit as much there and be there in the everyday as much. So to have great partners down there that are an extension of us, I think that our brands, One South brand and the Samson brand independently, can continue to grow in a real positive way in that region. I think is so some of our some of that differentiators we talked about. The other things that I think that I envision in the future for us is, at one point Rick asked me, like, what's the next thing? And I was like, I don't even know the next thing in front of me. But when I look back 6 months, I'm like, man, we did a lot in the last 6 months, because it's just that next thing hits you. And I think as you guys dive into the Cardinal Nest, like, Rick and some of the people already have, is there's so much great stuff in there that I think it'll take a while for everybody to unwind all the things that we can do already.
Right.
But we're looking to always make that user experience better. We got some proposals to make the Cardinal Nest even slicker, easier to work with, easier to find what you're looking for. And we're always looking for that next product. We were joking about, AI before we started here. Like, we've got all these notes, and, we should have said, like, hey, Jasper or ChatGPT, make this into a slideshow. I probably would have done it in 20 seconds, but we're not smart enough to do that yet. But we'll get there, right? But, I think that there's so much on the horizon that I think part of being, part of the win-win with us is that because we've got scale, I mean, we have 5,500 realtors now and 35 offices, that we can get products sometimes at a cost that makes a lot of sense, because we can spread it out and we can pay for it for people, but we can spread it out over all this growth. And if you buy something for 100 people, they give you this price. But if you're buying it for a lot more people, there's a lot more buying power, a lot more leverage there. So, when you talk about tech stacks like a KV Core or a Chime or a Real Scout or all these things we already have, and who knows what's next, I think it's so much easier to plug into that, because, they'll be like, oh, you want that? Great, plug it in. And it's easier to justify the cost over 5,000 people that might benefit from it, or even 1,000 people. If only 20% of people adopt it, you're like, but 1,000 people are going to think this is great.
So it makes a lot of sense.
But on 120 people or 150, 200 people, it's like, it's a lot of money for 20 people to adopt it.
It's prohibitive in a lot of cases.
It is, right? So there's a lot of things that you probably wanted to do, but you're like, but for 20 or 40 people that are actually going to use it, it's tough. But when you look at it, it's like, for 1,000 people, there's a win-win there. We can easily close our eyes and be like, we're going to create 1, 2, 5, 10 more transactions a month for everybody if we can plug this product in, and the price isn't as prohibitive under those things. So that's what I see as the future, is just not only like, okay, we got some great stuff now, we're going to enhance the Cardinal Nest, we're going to hopefully create a hub down there, but who knows what's next. A year ago we had 5 new partners that we didn't have a year ago, as far as products, and next year we'll probably have 5 more stuff, because as these times get interesting with the real estate market, more and more opportunities present themselves as far as products and stuff out there, more and more things that we don't know what the need is yet, right? Is there a need to, market to listings better, help people understand financing or financing alternatives better, or who knows what that is, right, in the future. But if there's a product out there that can help everybody and enhance that path, then we're going to try to plug that in, right? What
I hear
other
you.
thoughts? What other thoughts did you have, my man?
No, again, I think more so than anything, I wanted people to get a better sense of.
Sure.
There was a lot of thought that went into to making this partnership kind of come to life.
Yep.
There's been a history of skepticism from my perspective on dealing with, again, whether it's a franchise, whether it was the mid-major. I mean, we even were approached by a bank. And again, it just never seemed to fit on those 5 criteria, right?
Sure.
Is it solving the problems we have, and is it going to let us maintain independence? I just hadn't encountered one yet. And when I kind of saw this, and again, the transparency about, look, here are the answers, and here's the nest. Go in, play around. I mean, again, I've never felt as if I was being sold, only as if there was there's an opportunity again for kind of 2 people to come together,
create a win-win for both of us.
Exactly. And so, from that perspective, it's been, I would say again, it's taken me 10 years and maybe 3 months, or 15 years and 3 months to do this. And so, that's a kind of a testament to what you guys have built. And so, we're excited obviously to get started, and hopefully this will give kind of a view into the thought that went into why we're doing what we're doing.
And I would probably close with one point, because you mentioned how you were skeptical, and I think that's fair. Although we've always got along great, but it was just lots of conversations, not even parameters, just conversations about how does your business, how does the partnership work. And I think one thing that you said, they really hit home to me when it came to protecting your group that you love so fiercely, is that franchises and levels of leadership that were I think you mentioned at one point, like, I met with some guy, and then 6 months later I called back, and it was 3 different people. Like, there was no
consistency.
There was no consistency in what it was, and for lack of a better term, we were sitting in my office one day, and he said, "Your last name's on the wall behind your back," and I think that there's some security in that we're not some big ship that has all these random people in. I know it can seem like that because we have a lot of realtors in a lot of locations, but we're right here, and we're leading it from. I always say, like, well, how do you adopt a new product? Well, you just got to convince Donnie that day it's a good idea, because it's not, there's not all this thing. And I think that I would be silly not to have just a great leader like Rick and some of the great people at One South to have a core part of our leadership team that are helping us grow in that central region. So it's not like you're plugging into some massive ship that you can never, talk about. We're partners legitimately in this. What's best for the central region? We've talked about, Cardinal Title Group is one thing that, we own our own title company, and that's the way that we kind of help pay for a lot of the things that we give. And it's like, well, look, we talked about, well, what are prices? Well, what do they need to be? Let's change them. Like, that's kind of how we operate. It's not, there's not layers of stuff. So there's a level of security that it can seem like we're this big ship coming down and what's this going on, but we're not. We're just, me and our great group that we've assembled that just really cares about realtors. And, if I was just out there recruiting, our whole slogan is be the realtor you want to be, and it's by realtors for realtors. Like, that's our goal. Our goal is not to squeeze money or make some kind of big profit. Our goal is to create a company that helps realtors thrive and succeed. We've got a great company in One South that has continued to try to do that. And I think if we can help each other do that better, it's a huge win, I think.
I agree.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Well,
yeah, it was fun.
Great. Good stuff. And
studio.
we're looking forward to a bright future.
Yeah.